During their iPhone 15 event, Apple unleashed upon the world a short film bearing the infectiously catchy title 2030 Status Mother Nature Apple. It's a 5-minute propaganda piece in which Apple extol the virtues of Apple while also promoting a mainstream narrative concerning the climate and its... The short film is heavily infused with elements of body positivity, feminism, and intersectional casteism. Yes, casteism is a word. It means adherence to a caste system. Apple's Ode to Apple has not been well received. It currently has 29,000 likes and 76,000 dislikes on YouTube. It has been relentlessly mocked on social media, and even the ultra-mainstream AppleInsider.com described 2030 Status Mother Nature Apple as a complete dud. The most watched segment of the ad is the opening 10 seconds. What this means is that the vast majority of viewers took one look at this radioactive dog shit and decided,
hey, so, I'm gonna get out of here.
This will be the third episode of my propaganda analysis series, and I can say, without the slightest reservation, that 2030 Status Mother Nature Apple is by far the most incompetent piece of corporate propaganda I have yet examined. In the last episode of this series, I analysed Gillette's infamous The Best Men Can Be short film, and as profoundly despicable as that piece of media is, it does contain many impressive elements of subliminal and psychological manipulation, and displays a clear understanding of how to use visuals to insert messages at a subtextual level. Apple does attempt similar manipulation with their own piece, but it's ham-fisted, forced, obvious, and ineffective. I am not going to debase myself by debating the many political assertions that Apple make in 2030 Status Mother Nature Apple, as it is clear that Apple themselves have not done their own homework on this topic.
Our aim is to permanently remove carbon from the atmosphere.
I endeavour with this video, as I do with all my propaganda analysis, to keep the focus squarely on what messages the corporate Leviathan wishes to communicate, how they go about communicating those messages, where they go wrong, and what they should be doing instead. Quick note, for the sake of brevity, I shall be referring to 2030 Status Mother Nature Apple as 2SMNA for the remainder of this video. The opening image of 2SMNA is not a good one. Apple are trying to portray themselves as environmentally conscious, the friends of Mother Earth.
Are you trying to save the tropical savanna? Yes.
But 2SMNA opens with an ugly, grey, metal and glass building created with the minerals pillaged from the bowels of the planet. This is the opening image of the piece. It's supposed to convey the core message that Apple are a green company that really care about the environment, but this frame of a short, chubby girl swallowed up by a cold, colourless, featureless, metallic, gaping monstrosity that dares to call itself a workspace conveys the total opposite. It cements in the mind of the viewer the idea that Apple is a thing of metal and plastic, of brutal emotional indifference and clinical efficiency. Let's compare this botched opening to the opening of Nike's 2018 Colin Kaepernick endorsement commercial, made following their $40 million acquisition of what was at the time the most fashionable victim in the United States. The opening frame is bathed in sunlight. It shows a determined looking youth carefully groomed to look as anti-establishment as possible. Behind him, the natural glow of trees, grass, and sky is prominent. He performs a daring stunt, fails, and tries again. This opening communicates the traits Nike want their brand to be associated with: determination, youth, nature, rebellion, persistence. The opening of 2SMNA, featuring an assistant rushing through a brutalist panopticon, is an astoundingly poor first impression. Apple do make a crude attempt to crowbar in some natural imagery with this shot, but frame composition here is nothing short of a disgrace. Apple have had some trees torn out of their natural habitat and replanted at the panopticon in an attempt to make this postmodern glass and metal behemoth that they inhabit appear somehow eco-friendly. The kidnapped forest is literally cut in half by the framing. A cruel steel bridge cuts through the forest, severing it in half. The sides of the captive grove are crushed by sinister pillars of relentless grey steel that dominate the frame. Even the very sky herself is imprisoned within the vice grip of the interior and exterior roofs. This frame composition communicates that Apple, as manifested by the panopticon, is a machine that first incarcerates, then annihilates all natural life that comes within grasp of its vicious metal gauntlet. In short, this initial attempt by Apple at greenwashing is not well executed. Now let's get a look at the executive meeting room where the entirety of 2SM&A will take place. On the right, a female employee is womansplaining something to her male colleague, an important subversion of the usual trope to signal that at Apple, women are appropriately empowered and men know their place. Tim Cook is attempting to look concerned and displaying his impressive acting range.
Welcome to Apple, welcome to Apple. Hi, I'm
She should be here any minute.
How is the weather coming in?
If only his life had taken a turn in his early years, he could have been one of the great Shakespearean thespians.
To be or not to be? That is the question.
Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber has grown up and had a sex change. He still rocks that jacket pretty well though, even if he has gained a few pounds. There's a clumsy attempt to use an artificial rainbow in the backdrop to give off natural vibes, but as with the forest being crushed to death by the machine, it falls flat because the rainbow is plastic. It just looks awful. Apple would have been far better off putting an opaque CGI rainbow in the sky to create a more subtle, subliminal hint at environmental harmony. There is no paper on the table, the only drink visible is crystal clear water, and the only food is fresh, home-baked pastries. This has been very carefully staged, and is one of the few details that Apple get right in this ad. Office tables like this are usually strewn with paper, mugs, coffee cups, snacks, and other little bits and pieces of office trash. Unlike Game of Thrones Season 8, Apple did manage to clear out the Starbucks brown sugar oat soy Americanos before they started filming. We see some more uprooted trees that have been torn from the embrace of their relatives and transported to the panopticon on the back of huge flatbeds, here to signal how much Apple care about the environment. There's a painting of a forest behind Lloyd, a not so subtle hint that Apple really care about the environment. We get our first gag of the evening when obese assistant notices a dead plant and unadministered plant food and rushes to cover them up before Mother Nature gets here. Fortunately, obese assistant thinks a lot faster than she runs and hides the incriminating evidence behind her, shall we say, ample frame. The camera pans around to show off the impressive diversity of the board and the admirably casual attitude Apple take to office attire, hairstyle, and grown men who wear earrings and nose rings to work. Wardrobe choices aside, it is genuinely heartwarming to see that Slim Charles from The Wire has decided to clean up his act and go straight, and props to Apple for giving Slim this opportunity. He may once have been a professional murderer and drug dealer.
When it was Marlowe, I was with him. But now, nigga.
But everyone deserves a second chance.
The thing about the old days, they the old days.
Tim Cook shows off his impressive acting skills again. Rumour has it he spent many hours on set practicing the great performances of cinema history to prepare for his big breakout role.
Would you fuck me? I'd fuck me. I'd fuck me. I'd fuck me so.
Slim Charles has brought his business associate, Prop Joe, to Apple with him. Again, Apple showing that they are willing to give a man a second chance after he's made a few mistakes in life. We look outside to a lush forest with a beautiful mountain backdrop. There are two major problems with this frame. First, as with the captive grove, the natural scenery is severed in half by the panopticon roof. The huge geometric facade of the corporate monolith towers over the trees like a prison wall. The trees look like little prisoners, sadly gazing toward the sky and mountains and yearning for freedom. The second problem is the disgusting, gaudy piece of plastic junk sticking out of the forest like a strongly felt emotion out of Tim Cook's face.
You can't handle the truth!
So we get one last shot of the diversity board. Again, Tim Cook showing off those acting chops.
Advertising has us chasing cars and clothes, working jobs we hate so we can buy shit we don't need.
Now we get our first look at the much-hyped Mother Nature herself. No, I'm joking. Unfortunately, Apple's depiction of Mother Earth is carried out within the framework of a clear determination to make 2SM as relentlessly ugly as possible. I decided to throw in some peak Uma Thurman just to balance out the hideousness of 2SM a bit, and I will endeavour to maintain this balance throughout the video. We'll even throw in some hot guys for the ladies to enjoy. Now, let's look at Apple's anthropomorphization of Mother Nature. So that is the closest thing Apple could think of to represent Mother Nature. Not this, not this, not this. Apple present the viewer with that woman dressed in that manner and expect them to believe that this is Mother Nature. Oh fuck it, Karen iPhone, roll the skit.
I hope we didn't keep you waiting.
Mother Nature is played by a woman who, to put it politely, doesn't look like she spends a lot of time outside. She is also dressed entirely in black. Perhaps she's in mourning for Father Nature, or a rainforest that was burned down to open up a mine in order to meet Apple's demand for more lithium. Other than that, the only reason I can think that Apple would have her dressed entirely in black is that they want to rehabilitate the color black because racism or something. Mother Nature has historically been depicted as a young fertile woman since she is supposed to be a source of life, but here she is depicted as a very middle-aged woman. The actress in question, whose name I did not care to commit to memory, is 53 years old. I don't remember seeing her in anything, but I'm pretty sure she was in that movie about how the first man on the moon was actually 3 black women. Most importantly, Mother Nature is now black. As mentioned, Apple are a casteist organization, so their propaganda pieces must adhere to the principles of intersectionalism. Since the executive board, as presented in this piece, is very diverse, only a Brahmin can head the meeting. Grandma Nature is an obese black woman, which qualifies her as a member of that caste. Apple are clearly trying to subvert cultural norms by presenting Mother Nature as an old, fat black woman. Why should Mother Nature be a young, beautiful, fair-skinned woman clad in green foliage? Why can't it be an older, body-positive woman of colour? Here, Apple have decided that they, in a bold, brilliant, and original move, are going to
Subvert the audience's expectations.
Subversion of audience expectations is a hallmark of the deconstructionist cinema era, more commonly known as the woke era. Many cinephiles mark Ghostbusters 2016 as the beginning of this era, but the Despot here decrees that 2015's The Force Awakens was in fact the beginning of this period of cinematic destruction, which we, unfortunately, still find ourselves in. Here's a quick example of trope deconstruction and audience subversion in The Force Awakens.
Hey!
Ha! You thought he was going to rescue her, didn't you? Just like Leia was rescued in A New Hope, but she don't need no man because it's current year, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Another example. Ha! You thought Han Solo was going to redeem his son, just like Luke redeemed his father in Return of the Jedi. Yeah, well... Take that! Audience expectations. Ha ha ha. We're destroying that thing you love. Now, give us your money and applaud, or you're all racists.
You're no Star Wars fan in my mind.
The problem with Apple's use of audience subversion is that it isn't 2015 anymore, and trope deconstruction has itself become a thoroughly tired trope. A recent example of just how stale it has become was the treatment of Ken at the end of Barbie. He didn't get the girl in the end, and Barbie became a strong, single, independent, powerful woman.
There is only power.
Even many women who liked Barbie didn't like that ending because it felt empty and depressing, but it had to be that way because Greta Gerwig is an a la mode deconstructionist director. The Flash, arguably the worst movie of the year,
Times myself. You can't.
ended on a trope deconstruction. Spoilers for anyone who gives a shit.
You're not Batman.
Ha! You weren't expecting that, were you? It wasn't Ben Affleck as Batman, it was George Clooney, and the ending doesn't tie everything off with a neat little ribbon. So, yeah, can we have a sequel now? Apple using the subversion cliche 8 years after it became fashionable in media is typical of crappy corporate propaganda, going along with the same safe, dull, and now unfashionable tropes and expecting to be applauded for it, as if they're doing something cool and original. Apple subverting the cultural depiction of Mother Nature is like a 45-year-old man showing up to a nephew's birthday in 2017 in skinny jeans, a horrifying cringe example of an older guy rocking a recently out of fashion trend in a sad attempt to look cool. By the way, Hollywood, if you're listening, just as teenage boys and older men embracing a hairstyle signals the end of that style as a fashionable trend, when Silicon Valley corporations start aping your tropes, that is a strong cultural indicator that the trope in question is now out of fashion. Deconstruction was never a good idea to begin with, but now it has the unbearable stench of pastiche. Stop doing it. In her introductory frame, Grandma Nature is placed next to a white man, her assistant, to accentuate her intersectional credentials.
She will be the first Black woman, the first out LGBTQ plus person to serve in this role, which is amazing.
Notice also that the white man hasn't shaved in a couple of days and his hair is just kind of sitting there. And no offense to my boy here, but he's not exactly Chris Hemsworth. He's also a meek, obsequious little creature whose small personality is intended as a contrast to make Grandma Nature appear more powerful and impressive.
Which reduces transportation emissions by 95%.
95%? Not too bad.
Much more on Grandma Nature's characterization in a bit. Apple also tried to use Mousy Assistant to form a strong visual contrast with Grandma Nature. Here's a quick example of visual contrast from a piece I covered in a previous episode of Propaganda Analysis.
This is how I do it. This is how I do it.
The dusty old crone is dressed in tatty grey rags and placed in a claustrophobic, artificially lit room to contrast with the asset, a naturally lit, young, colourful, vibrant, and body-positive girl. This is done to make the asset appear more physically attractive. In this case, the visual contrast technique is deployed successfully. The use of frame-to-frame contrast also helps. The contrast frame is made to look ugly and dark, and the positive aspects of the asset frame stand out on their own, instead of being visually polluted by the repulsive visuals of the contrast frame. Apple's attempt at visual contrast is botched. The hope is that by placing this pudgy, vaguely disheveled guy next to the asset, they'll make her look more attractive by comparison, but there are a few problems. Firstly, the guy doesn't look bad enough. His scruffy, unshaven look actually works well. It gives him a masculine edge, and he's well dressed. In fact, what he's wearing is pretty damn sharp, and a hell of a lot better looking than the jet black tarp they've thrown over Grandma Nature. The visual contrast element actually backfires here. My boy looks pretty good in comparison to the asset. If I were directing this, I would have given the Mousy Assistant a stupid hat, a close shave to make his face look smooth and boyish, dressed him in a swampy, shit brown jacket and granny beige shirt, and I would use a frame-to-frame contrast. I would also have cast a much thinner, younger woman as Mother Nature. The result would look something like this.
I hope we didn't keep you waiting.
Mother Nature.
Much better. Much more effective. Apple's already failed attempt at visual contrast is completely destroyed by what they do next.
Mother Nature.
This girl is actually hot. In fact, she's the only attractive human being in this short film, and Apple show her in a frame-to-frame contrast with the asset? No! You do not contrast the main asset with a girl who looks like that. Apple have three priorities here. The viewer needs to be told that this is Mother Nature and not Jabba the Hutt's mother in mourning. Apple want to flout their diversity.
She will be the first Black
Mother Nature.
Which is amazing.
And they want to show that it's women who are more awestruck by nature and thus more interested in saving the planet than men. The mistake they make is in allowing these imperatives to come at the expense of the visual integrity of the asset. There is a very easy fix here. This is how Apple should have done this.
I hope we didn't keep you waiting.
Mother Nature.
Now, Prop Joe has been placed between Grandma Nature and Hot Girl, acting as a visual buffer. One of the most important lessons I learned from my analysis of body positive advertisements is that protecting the visual integrity of the asset is essential. It is not a small detail, it is an absolute must. Showing Grandma Nature next to a beautiful young woman was an easily avoided own goal. I will say though, as embarrassingly incompetent as this piece has been up to now, Tim Cook knocks it out of the fucking ballpark with his next line delivery.
Mother Nature, welcome to Apple. How is the weather getting in?
And this is actually a setup for the punchline of an absolute banger of a joke.
How is the weather getting in?
The weather was however I wanted it to be. Let's cut to the chase.
With this line, framing is clearly communicated.
Let's cut to the chase.
Grandma Nature is a powerful, no bullshit girl boss who demands results and doesn't have time for excuses.
I think our 10 o'clock said the same thing.
They all do.
Again, we see that Apple have decided to go with trope deconstruction by having Grandma Nature come in and say authentic, non-corporate sounding phrases like,
let's cut to the chase.
And by making reference to other corporate public image campaigns.
This is my third corporate responsibility gig today, so who wants to disappoint me first?
Apple are trying to subvert the old corporate trope of a faceless voiceover spewing corporate speak bullshit.
We're all different, and our differences can generate various points of view and contribute to creativity and innovation.
That's why at DuPont, we believe in embracing diverse talent, valuing each member of our team, and providing inclusive leadership. We can utilize our differences to better achieve our goals and objectives.
Apple are doing this to try to appear more honest, open, and real, not just another faceless corporation making empty promises. This is a decent idea, but the execution is abysmal. Apple envisioned
Mother Nature
in all her diverse, regal glory, holding Apple to account for the promises they made, and ultimately being satisfied with the answers they give. The audience will love seeing Mother Nature as a total slay queen, and Apple will come off as modest and authentic, and those banging jokes should keep this skit light on its feet and relatable.
TVs, Apple Watch.
What about iPod Shuffle? It's a joke.
The reality is that Grandma Nature comes off as an insufferable, bossy Karen. She centers the meeting entirely around herself.
This is my third corporate responsibility gig today, so who wants to disappoint me first?
She also has a pessimistic attitude and a nasty, acerbic tone.
By the end, let me guess. 50 years from now when someone else is left holding the bag. Electricity, status. What runs on 100% clean electricity?
So trope deconstruction isn't the only trope Apple have filched from Hollywood. They have also decided to make use of the unlikable female protagonist cliche.
And what do you do now? Sign books?
So I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you.
If blood be the price of passage, I will pay it. I have no need of your welcome.
Fred's a rich white guy with a tiny dong. He did it.
I am a god. Do not disrespect me.
Excuse me. Hello. Hi. Hello, everyone. Did you see?
Fuck you! Fuck you! Get the fuck out of here!
So who wants to disappoint me first?
We are also subjected to an additional trope, a female protagonist overcompensating for a lack of physical authority with an overbearing, arrogant comportment.
I cannot unseal the document without authorization.
Well, then I'm authorizing it.
Well, I'm not sure you can.
Want to bet?
Grandma Nature will come off particularly badly to anyone who has worked under a shitty boss in an office, which is basically anyone who has worked in an office. Arrogance and braggadocio are not impressive character traits. They are diminutive. They diminish the image of the individual in the eyes of the onlooker. If someone has to make themselves the loudest person in the room and project their authority over everyone present.
All right, so now what I want you to do is, ladies, real quick, don't fucking waste my time. Rate the guys. Do me a favor, Josh. Stand up real quick, man. Everybody look at him once, man. He's not going to stand up again, all right? So I want you to rate me, my co-host, and then our fucking producer. Go, from 1 to 10. Just off beauty. Go.
That person is clearly very insecure and eager to be perceived as strong because they are actually weak.
You sound like a stupid-ass bitch. I'm trying to figure out why you rated me a 2 because we're not going off our interactions. We're going off beauty. You gave me a 2. So do me a favor, get the fuck up and get the fuck out.
Thank you.
Yeah, get out.
This is not what good leadership looks like.
So who wants to disappoint me first?
Ready to share with you.
Materials, status.
Our packaging by the end.
Let me guess. Don't you people make Ted Lasso? What about Brando over there? They phasing you out too? Seriously explaining carbon neutrality to Mother Nature?
Right, no, I'm sorry.
You want to tell me how photosynthesis works too? Don't.
This is what good leadership looks like.
Yo, what you doing, man? What you doing, man? What I told you? What I told you? You can't eat that, man. We just came for training. I've been driving behind you for 1 hour. You can't stay committed for 1 hour? I'm trying. You trying what? I'm trying. How you gonna lose weight? How you gonna lose weight? You gotta stay committed, man. This is no game. This is a life and death situation. I'm not gonna waste my time training you, then after training you eating donuts.
Now let's watch an edited version of those clips. See if you notice the difference. Bad leadership.
I wanted it. My third corporate responsibility gig me first. Mother Nature, tell me how. I want to see.
Good leadership.
What you doing, man? What I told you? Driving behind you. You trying what? How you gonna lose weight?
Grandma Nature is making it all about herself. The trainer is making it all about you. The man struggling with weight and an addiction to junk food. The little guy who needs the strength of his trainer to carry on in the noble cause of losing weight and getting healthy. A battle which many of us already fight, but which Mother Nature has apparently given up on. One of the main problems with ASMR is that there is no you. This isn't about the planet or the people that live on it. It's about Apple. This is a PR exercise for Apple. If Apple gave a shit about you, about people, they wouldn't be making a propaganda short piece to flex their green virtue. This literal trillion-dollar company would be making a film about how they're going to improve the wages and working conditions of Apple factory workers in Vietnam who get paid $1.12 fucking cents an hour.
Mostly teenagers from the countryside, 17, 18-year-olds. Her name is Xiao Ying. She's a 27-year-old mother of 2.
But nah, fuck 'em. We'll just spend millions of dollars making a short film bragging about how great we are instead.
We are in the process of eliminating all plastic from our packaging.
And we're also currently using 100% recycled aluminum in the enclosures of all our MacBooks, Apple TVs, Apple Watch.
We're operating on 100% clean electricity.
100% clean, renewable electricity.
We're investing in projects around the world that protect the Earth's soil, plants, and trees.
If Apple had just spent the money they torched making this abomination on a small bonus to the staff of a few Apple factories in Vietnam or Indonesia, along with the promise that
Apple are working to improve working conditions and sustainability in our manufacturing chain, every member of our global Apple team should benefit from the success of our company. That's why Apple, along with all our global partners, are forming a new initiative, Fair Apportionment, Growth, and Sustainability. And now a message from our CEO.
You're all a bunch of fucking assholes. You know why? You don't have the guts to be what you want to be.
They could film the whole thing on an iPhone and publish it on their social media. That would have been great. Some poor people catch a well-needed little break, Apple gets a PR boost, and the corporation that encourages consumers to buy a new phone every 15 minutes can pretend to give a shit about the health of the planet. Everybody wins. That is good propaganda. But no, because Apple aren't here to impress you. They're not here to reassure some poor kid who worries about growing up during the global boiling apocalypse.
The era of global boiling has arrived.
They're here to answer to the imperious Karen. Apple clearly want to adhere as closely as possible to the well-worn Hollywood trope of detestable female characters, so Grandma Nature is not just an officious bitch, eager to throw her weight around, difficult as that may prove. She also has the empowered habit of interrupting people.
Some updates we're excited to share with you.
Materials, status.
Of eliminating all plastic from our packaging by the end.
Let me guess.
All our MacBooks, Apple TVs, Apple Watch.
What about iPod Shuffle?
Just to make the character that much less bearable. I do have to give the devil his due though. Despite doing everything else wrong, the jokes in 2SM&R are fire.
Henry David Thoreau over here.
We're also phasing out leather in our iPhone cases.
What about Brando over there? They phasing you out too?
Grandma Nature makes two jokes at other people's expense. In both cases, the butt of the joke is a white man. While jokes making fun of other people are generally discouraged under the new order, in the UK, for example, causing offence to certain groups can even land you in jail.
Police are investigating complaints after a 16-year-old girl was arrested for making an offensive comment against these officers.
She won't come out. She's got autism. I'm Lisa.
So she can come out, because we're trying not to do this.
It is acceptable, even empowering, for a Brahmin to make a joke at the expense of a Dalit. It would not be acceptable for Grandma Nature to poke fun at Lloyd, Slim Charles, Prop Joe, or Hot Girl, because Apple considers them to be of a caste that is above insult. Next, Grandma Nature wants to know about Apple's electricity usage.
Electricity, status.
But Prop Joe and Slim Charles are still having difficulty adjusting to life after getting out of the game, and Tim Cook won't stop practicing his interpretive improvisations, as he calls them.
I need you to hit somebody. That nigga need to be got. Damn, string, I don't know. Nigga, I gotta remind who the fuck you work for. Put the fucking lotion in the basket.
So Prop Joe takes his turn filleting Apple. He tells Grandma Nature some boring shite about carbon fiber offices or something.
Every Apple office, store, and data center runs on clean electricity thanks to you and your powerful wind and sun.
It doesn't really matter what he says, since no one is still watching the video at this stage, and Apple really need to get into the comedy game, because the next joke here is another rib breaker.
You're seriously explaining carbon neutrality to Mother Nature?
Right, no, I'm sorry.
You want to tell me how photosynthesis works too? Don't.
Next, there's some excruciatingly boring back and forth between Grandma Nature and the Diversity Board that is all but impossible to pay attention to. But there is one very interesting exchange in which Apple inadvertently reveal their plan to wipe out humanity and repopulate the Earth with specimens of their own choosing.
Our aim is to permanently remove carbon from the atmosphere.
Here, in the untainted cradle of the heavens, will be created a new super race, a race of perfect physical specimens. You have been selected as its progenitors. Like gods, your offspring will return to Earth and shape it in their image.
God damn it, Lloyd.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this.
And reveal Apple's ultimate goal of planetary extinction. The sheer lack of effort that has gone into 2SMNR is astounding. Apple are the most valuable company in the world, and the best they can do with their environmentalist world-saving propaganda is to gather a bunch of badly dressed, chubby soy addicts, a few former gangsters, Tim Cook, and one hot girl in a room, have them presided over by a no-name actress dressed in a rain poncho, and the script hasn't even been proofread. The era-defining humour aside, how in the holiest of venti double ristretto vanilla double iced shot organic chocolate brown decaf lattes did this?
Our aim is to permanently remove carbon from the atmosphere.
Make it into the final video. How did no one involved in this production point out that removing all carbon from the atmosphere will kill every living thing on Earth? One would like to think that Apple do at least a bare minimum of research about what carbon actually is before declaring an existential war against it. This would not be difficult. Here, Apple, consider this a free lesson in how to conduct basic research. What is carbon dioxide?
Carbon dioxide is an important greenhouse gas that helps to trap heat in our atmosphere. Without it, our planet would be inhospitably cold.
But apparently, a quick Google search is beyond the capacities of a $1 trillion company. Next, we get another frame-to-frame cut from Hot Girl to Grandma Nature, just to remind us of Mother Nature's fall from a paragon of indescribably radiant beauty to an individual who, well, let's just be polite and say, doesn't mind a bit of Netflix chill and McDonald's.
Water usage.
We've reduced it.
By how much?
63 billion gallons.
63 million?
Billion.
But my lord, there is no such force.
Grandma Nature turns her back to the Diversity Board, stares out the window of her evil lair, and contemplates the fate of her terrified underlings. If Apple's goal here is to depict Grandma Nature as a terrifying villain by framing her as a black shadow against a pleasant backdrop, deciding whether or not to kill one of her minions as an example to the others, They did a great job. If their goal was anything else, they failed miserably. Now, the climactic moment that the film has been building toward, it's happening. Tim Cook is finally stepping into the spotlight. A world that waited with bated breath need wait no more. The dramatic arts will be here redefined. Ladies and gentlemen, a star is born.
As you can see, we've innovated and retooled almost every part of our process to reduce our impact on the planet. But there's still a lot more work to do.
For me, what really makes Tim Cook's speech the standout performance of 2023 is the slight movement of his left eye at the end. He manages, in what must have been a Herculean effort, to keep every muscle in his face still as a rock throughout the delivery, but right at the end, he lets go. The eye narrows slightly, the speech reaches its dramatic climax, and the audience is left enraptured.
And there's something else we wanted to share with you.
You're not trying to bribe Mother Nature with apple swag.
It's Apple's very first carbon neutral product.
This is the only competently composed frame in this entire piece. The watch on the right has some nice nature-evoking colours, the watch in the middle has a picture of the earth, and the watch on the left is showing the word cleaner, a nice little subliminal insert there. The goal here is to conflate the image of Apple products with the idea of a clean, healthy planet. When Apple show you the iPhone 15, iPhone 15 Plus, iPhone 15 Pro, or iPhone 15 Pro Max, they don't want you thinking, if Apple care about the environment so much, why do they release 4 versions of a new phone every year? I mean, there are over 2 billion active Apple devices in the world already, so why don't Apple just make one really good phone that's designed to last a decade? Surely that would have the least impact on the environment because, you know, lithium mines and all that. No, Apple don't want those thoughts entering your head. What they want is for you to look at these 4 variants of their latest phone and think, wow, that is so environmentally friendly. What a great company. Now, what does Grandma Nature say when she sees these 3 new Apple products soon to be added to the 2 billion strong pile?
I want to see you do more of this.
Yes, apparently Mother Nature doesn't seem to mind the billions of devices destined to sink into her oceans, poison her rivers, and pollute the very entrails of the planet itself as they rot in landfills.
The soil itself, you could see is hugely contaminated just by your sight.
Nor does she seem at all perturbed by the billions of discarded Apple products already wreaking havoc upon the natural environment. Nor does she mind seeing vast areas of forest burned out of existence to make way for monstrously destructive lithium mines to fuel Apple's batteries. And she'll take the occasional oil spill as long as the end result is satisfying Apple's gigantic demand for cheap plastic that will go on to irreparably poison the waters of the earth. And she does not seem to take exception to the total decimation of subterranean ecosystems carried out in order to mine the many metals Apple require for their many products. No, her response to this rampant corporate greed-induced plundering of the natural world is,
I want to see you do more of this.
To which Tim Cook reassuringly responds,
You will.
I want to see you do more of this. I want to see you do more of this. I want to see you do more of this.
You will.
Next, Grandma Nature and Tim Cook have a stare down that will go down as one of the great face-offs in film history. What can one do when presented with such genius but weep at the knowledge of what was lost to the art of cinema when Tim Cook chose to become a tech guy instead of an actor? Next, we're treated to another heart attack inducing joke. Bro, if you've been doing stomach crunches and those abs are tender, look away now, because this is gonna hurt.
Don't disappoint your mother.
And Mousy Assistant scampers after his master without her instructing him to do so, emphasizing her magnetic authority. 2ASMNA ends with Tim Cook delivering an awe-inspiring dramatic reaction. Word on the street is that he repeatedly practiced Jake Gyllenhaal's famous mirror scene from Nightcrawler to get this reaction right. 2030 status Mother Nature Apple isn't so much a propaganda short film with mistakes as it is a 5-minute mistake in which everything is done badly. 2SMNA is what happens when you start with a bad idea, then do everything wrong. A recent example of this in the world of entertainment is Velma, a project that was incurably diseased from its very conception and was executed with all the competence of, well, Mindy Kaling. 2SMNA, like Velma, could never have been anything other than radioactive garbage. When someone suggested to Tim Cook, hey Tim, what if we did a really subversive skit and we'll get that fat actress from that movie about how black women set up a colony on Mars and she'll play Mother Nature and you'll play a CEO with delusions of acting ability and it'll be really funny and we can use it to promote our next flagship product? Tim Cook's response should have been very simple. No. Fortunately, he said yes, which means I can do this.
This is Sparta!
But awful acting, bad casting, terrible characterization, grossly incompetent visual composition, insufferable cliched tropes, jokes that should result in someone going to prison, bungled attempts at symbolism, self-satisfied, smug, autoflationary tone, and just plain fucking cringe aside, the worst problem that 2SMNR suffers from is that it is so unendurably boring. There is no movement, no location or scene changes, no story or narrative. It's just Grandma Nature walking around a table filled with fat, pudgy, excessively congenial, badly dressed, castrated men, and chubby, excessively helpful, modestly dressed women. The most viewed part of this ad is the opening 15 seconds. This means that the vast majority of viewers are checking out of this video early because they're bored. The first rule of propaganda is don't bore the audience. The second rule of propaganda is do not bore the audience. Propaganda, above all else, must be compelling in order to be effective. 2SMNR does not have a single compelling component. It tries to be funny, but the problem is that Tim Cook is here, and Tim Cook is about as funny as an AIDS-infected serial killer suffering from stage 4 cancer. 2SMNR is just Apple wanking themselves off for 5 minutes in a room full of spoiled, boring diversity hires who exist in a bubble of convivial softness. It doesn't matter what the message of your propaganda is. You won't get it across if no one is watching. The other major problem with 2SMNR is that it has no armor. It's too easily criticized. Apple think that by having a fat black woman play Mother Nature and a room full of box tickers, that will suffice. That's all the diversity armor they need, and anyone who doesn't like the ad can be accused of racism. Because look at the diversity. What Apple failed to realize is that it doesn't matter what the color of the people in this room are. The viewers know that Apple is a $1 trillion company. They know that anyone that sits in an executive meeting room at the Apple Panopticon is a multi-millionaire with juicy stock options. The diversity is nullified by the obscene levels of wealth that these people have built on the backs of factory workers who earn how much, Tim? Should we have another look? From greenamerica.org, regarding the wages of Apple factory workers in China.
Taking a conservative estimate of 12 hours a day, 30 days per month, workers earn approximately 10 yuan and 13 fen per hour, or roughly $1.62 per hour. This is less than half the recommended living wage of about 3 yuan and 77 fen per hour.
Last month, it emerged that Apple, the most valuable company in the world and supposedly an icon of squeaky clean progressive values, brushed aside allegations of child labor within its key Chinese supply chain.
It doesn't matter where you fall on the political spectrum or what your views on climate change are. The vast majority of people viewing this garbage will see it for what it is, an all-powerful mega corporation congratulating themselves for their green initiatives and demanding that you give them a pat on the back for it, while ignoring real problems like unlivable wages in their supply chain. Apple made 2SMNR and carry on with their so-called green initiatives for the same reason Lloyd's Bank puts a pride flag on all of their branches in June, because they don't want to get asked questions like, Hey Lloyds, why did you reject 20,000 mortgage applications last year while paying out £400 million in bonuses and raking in £7 billion in profits? Easier to just fly a colourful flag to demonstrate what a wonderful company they are and how much they care, and avoid bigoted questions from homophobes? If Apple wants to get away with nonsense like this, they need to do better than a room full of fat millionaires. Let's have another look at that ad from Nike.
If they laugh at what you think you can do. Good.
Nike show a little boy with a severe physical disability doing his best in a wrestling match. That is armor.
Nothing can reach us!
That is invincibility grade armor. Now anyone who challenges Nike on their political views, as stated in this ad, can be harangued as refusing to support disabled children in athletics. It's brilliant. It's simple, but it's brilliant. It's also very emotionally manipulative. It's much harder for people to dislike an ad that appears to support the athletic endeavors of disabled kids. I am not a fan of Nike, but credit where credit is due, they are brilliant propagandists. Apple could have learned from this. They're going green to make a better world for the slum children of India, for disabled kids in sports. They're doing it so that this little girl who survived cancer can have a future that little heroes like her deserve. Also, we gave her a free iPad. Now go buy the iPhone 15 Pro Max. No one would dare attack that. Tim Cook is a great CEO, but he's a terrible propagandist. 2030 status, Mother Nature Apple is a total disgrace, and Apple should be ashamed of themselves for such pathetic incompetence.